not who, but what is racist. The real definitions of racism is what we never hear about. So when you accuse people of being racist and you're not working with the real definition of racism, then it's possible the people who do that are racist themselves, right? Because the real definition of racism, first of all, we hear it from the Democrat Party all the time. They call the Republican Party racist, but the Democrat Party had Jim Crow, not the Republican Party. The Democrat Party opposes the Bible, not the Republican Party, not overall. They're at least tolerant of it. They're at least tolerant of having the Bible and God, one nation under God. If you vote Republican, the Democrats are intolerant of God if you vote Democrat. Bottom plain and simple. And so God is the only person that defines us as one human race in the Bible, from Adam and Eve, from Noah's family after the flood. And we different ethnicities, not two different races. We're the same race, different ethnicities by language, not by skin tone. And so it came from language change. When God changed language at the Tower of Babel, we all used our unified language and communication together to build a tower, try to build a tower to heaven. And He wasn't happy about that. He wanted us to know we can't get to heaven on our own power, but through Him. All right. And back then He taught that we get it through trusting in the spotless lamb. They used to sacrifice lambs and ask forgiveness to God. And which also I'll point out that you didn't have to always be charged with the way they punished people for sins back then. If you sacrificed to the lamb and asked forgiveness and all that, you probably didn't have to go through with those punishments. Even just like now, so there's certain things you have to do. If somebody steals from somebody, we hold them accountable to pay them back. We're supposed to. They did it back then. All right, but let's go back to, so what is truly racist? If you believe in evolution, we're going to say what is, not who is. Okay. So believing in evolution, that we're separate races, one's more advanced in the evolutionary cycle than the other. That's where that comes from. That's where the white supremacists came from. That's where the KKK agreed with. That's who, white supremacists, KKK, who else? Anyway, what other names they got for racist white people, I forget. But the same people who push evolution and the Democrat Party are calling people who believe in one human race racist. They're lying. All right. So I said who right there because that's who pushes evolution. But I'm not picking on certain names. They don't have an education. They've lied for so long. They don't even know themselves. They just know that it works. Hey, if I call them racist, all these boys will go beat them up or something. And so that's not nice to do. How do they accuse them of being racist? When they're the ones that promote it, the ones saying it are the ones that promote evolution, but what they've done also is they've tried to define America as being a white supremacist country founded on they're trying to define the Bible as racist, and that white supremacy comes from the Bible, and that it comes from when we created America and made the Declaration of Independence, which states basically that we're all created equal. Endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. We're all, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's defining us as one race from God, Adam and Eve, basically. So, and I don't have it memorized. I did at one point, but I'd have to go back and refer to it. Which I'll say, we always talk about intellects and everything else being so. Some people can remember stuff, but even the best ones, if they don't review it, they can forget stuff. And so this life is not all about memory. It's not all about programs. It's good we have programs to keep people showing that we need to work together with people and stuff. But in the end, it's what you believe in your heart. All right, and you have to. If you reject Christ, you don't sign up for Christ's heaven. You don't get into Christ's heaven. And if you sign up for somebody else's heaven, there's no evidence of anybody else having a heaven. None. No other God has proven the power over life, rose from the dead. It's that simple. And then He also loved us and forgave us on the cross in immense pain. And He showed He didn't sit there and curse and swear while He was on the cross either, which I don't know if I could do that with that. If I stub my toe, I'm going to slip and say a curse word sometimes, right? So sometimes I've withheld my tongue, right? But even on that, when I stub my toe or something. But other times I don't. And I feel a little bad about it, but I didn't. I didn't hold my tongue. It felt good to curse at that time for some reason. But it didn't help as much as you think. Anyhow. So why would I slip if I knew, okay, it didn't really help it stop hurting, did it? Anyway. But, so you have, and I've known people who will say, he's not a Christian because he cursed when he stubbed his toe. That's not the case either. But, so I've heard people recently, and now I'm going to go into who a little bit, but like there's been a black church that calls himself Baptist, and they're hypocrite. They're trying to call Charlie Kirk racist, saying he's a white supremacist and all that because he promotes the Bible. That's why they're the same people that are connected to the folks who in the Democrat Party who, along with Obama, who defined. Obama said the KKK comes from Christianity. The KKK burnt crosses because they hate Christianity. All right. And so a lot of people have bought into that, and that's created to hate America. The reason they said that is they want you to hate America because we were founded on Christian Judeo principles by the Republican Party, who were the real settlers who came here to escape Europe. I'll say Europe overall because I don't know the whole story there, but a lot of Europe was with Catholicism, but especially England at first. They were getting hung by the neck for reading the Bible. Only the Pope was allowed to read the Bible. That's why they escaped here. And so, but then Britain and France, but Britain followed them here and tried to stop them from being free. And they tried to stop them from being free. And they brought the slaves and stuff, not the settlers. Settlers were individuals running here. A lot of, there's more than that. So there was a mix of Spain and Portugal were bringing the most slaves to the west side of the world, right? Western side of the world, we'll call it. They were bringing them to Brazil. Most of them were to Brazil. And I don't know how that worked out. I can't remember all that. I have to look it back up again. But it comes from, and so the Democrats always talk bad about America, but they talk good about Brazil. They were for quite a few years there. You don't hear it as much now, but about 15 years ago, they were talking good about Brazil. Well, that's the place that got the most slaves. But guess who had the most slaves, by the way, to give the black slaves, that is? They had Africa. Africa had the most slaves to give away to sell. They weren't getting kidnapped like everybody's saying. As far as I know, they weren't getting kidnapped until Thomas Jefferson, who Obama spoke bad about too, and he's the signer of the Declaration of Independence that defined us as one human race. All right? So Thomas Jefferson outlawed slave imports. He was part of the committee that outlawed slave imports. He was the leader of that committee, I think, in 1807, not 1865 when the Civil War happened, way before that. So it was a battle to get rid of slavery. It took a long time, but Thomas Jefferson was signing on, working towards getting rid of slavery. But the South at the time, but the Confederates, who became the Democrats, wanted to keep slavery. So it was hard to stop that. So you had the Yankees, and then you had the Confederates. The Yankees didn't want the slavery. That became the Republican Party. Okay? So the Republican Party is the one who were against slavery. All right? And they won the Civil War to end slavery. But Thomas Jefferson, back in 1807, it's a big deal. So here's the point. He signed that saying you can't have slave imports anymore. Then I can say for sure after that, no longer could you get them from Africa, in the northern side of Africa, where Spain and Portugal are close to. And that's part of the reason they were the biggest transporters, because they were close to there. So that's geographically. And so that's when kidnapping started. I would say, I don't know if any kidnapping happened before that, but I don't know for sure. But people lie so much just to make, they tell all these lies to make white people look like they're all just racist, the only racist in the world. They're the worst thing that ever happened to the earth, and black people are the real good things. And so these are racist black folks acting like black, and they go so far as saying blacks are gods, and there was never white people in the first place. There was only black people. That's all there ever was. Saying all this stuff, saying blacks are the real Jews, and saying no white man can ever go to heaven. Only black people can go to heaven. I've heard all that stuff. I've heard it right here in America. Heard it in parks. I've heard it at homeless feedings. I've heard it everywhere. All right. So, and they're all want to kill me or whatever. So, but all those black Hebrew Israelites that say they're the real Jews, and I don't agree with that, because I think the black skin tone came from living south of the Sahara Desert, and everybody came from Turkey After the flood, everybody came from Turkey, close to Turkey and Iraq, Baghdad. We all migrated from there. And so, we don't know for sure if it was, it's possible still. I'd have to study even more, but I'm not just going by somebody making up something because they just want it to be the way they want it to be. And they hate the Bible and they hate Christians and then they know it better than me. Okay. Now, some of these people can study pretty good, but so before the flood, were people black before the flood or white? I mean, the evidence shows they might have been lighter skinned or medium skinned because it makes sense that once everybody moved south of the equator, near the equator, I mean, south of the Sahara Desert, that's where people would have started getting dark skin. It just makes sense. So that doesn't mean we didn't all come from Adam and Eve. So what's the big deal? We all came from Adam and Eve. We all came from Noah's family. There's no superiority in that sense in any way. I mean, so people get mad about Israel being the chosen people. They were the chosen lineage to follow that Christ would be born from. He could only be born from one small family tree from Mary, and they may have followed Joseph's family tree. He was the stepfather, technically, not the real father. God is the real father. He used David's seed, sperm, apparently, to put inside Mary, miraculously, not through sex. So I've had people who hate the Bible start accusing God of having sex with Mary and stuff. No, it was a miraculous just placing of the seed in her, and she's the only person that I recall that stayed at the cross when Jesus died and didn't give up and walk off in embarrassment and hopelessness. I think all the disciples did, if I recall. You have to double check me on that. But Mary didn't. You know why? Because she knew that she knew, but it's her child for one thing. But she knew that she knew that she knew she had never been with a man when she got pregnant by him. She never drank before. She'd never been poisoned before and blacked out and put to sleep. All that. He didn't have lots of drugs and stuff like that going around back then where people poison them or put date rape medicine in them. And none of that. So she knew that. She knew he was God. She was the first one. She was the one going and checking the grave the most, looking for him to be gone and risen from the dead. I think Mary Magdalene did that. I forget. But anyway, so eventually they saw he rose from the dead. The Roman soldiers saw that he rose from the dead while the best army in the world at the time was guarding the grave. All right, so they became Roman Catholic. They protected the Bible. Okay, let's get back to race. So we're one human race from God, Adam, and Eve. That's what the Bible teaches. So where is white supremacy in that? There is none. We're all from Adam and Eve. We're all one human race. Love your neighbor. Love God. Died for the whole world. God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. There's no supremacy in that. Now, where people do get tricked and deceived into thinking, Republicans can seem racist because there is a sabotage on medicine laws in our country, created by the evolutionists who took over science and demanded that we make cocaine illegal. That used to be in Coca-Cola. They made the coca leaf illegal, and then they took the strongest forms of it, concentrated forms, which would be hundreds of leaves, just for one batch of coke powder, and they didn't make a pill form. A pill form, if you took a pill form of caffeine, for instance, it'll absorb slowly in your stomach, and it's pretty strong, but it's stronger than coffee. But if you drink coffee, you're not going to do too much usually because it suppresses your appetite. And so it has other properties in the coffee bean, or the tea, for instance, too. You got stuff in the tea that makes it so you don't want to drink all that much. And then, so it counter affects the side effects of caffeine. But if you made powder caffeine, just like they make powder cocaine, it could pop your heart. It goes straight into your bloodstream. There's that risk, and then if they made crack caffeine, like they make crack cocaine, you'd have some of the same problems. But I'm pretty sure if you put 2 leaves of a coca leaf tree into a water and made a tea with it, you wouldn't have the same problems at all. So what they did, though, is they demonized it by putting those strongest forms, only powder, no pills even. They put the powder form in the streets, eventually made it into crack. And so it has natural medicinal properties which relieve pain, so it makes people feel good because it's a pain reliever. It makes people feel good because it has natural antidepressant features, right? And it's probably it could possibly be the best antidepressant medicine that God created. It might be. I'm not saying for sure. And but the cartels love to demonize it because that makes them the most money. people, and it's fast money when you do it in the crack cocaine form. It can be fast money in the powder form too. They put different stuff in it to make it worse and all this stuff, or make it harder. People fiend for it. So, but if it was in a tea form, it shouldn't be much problem. But it should be in the medicine class still, and even caffeine products should be put in medicine class, and you should have to have maybe take classes before you use it. So if I had children, I wouldn't give my kids uh, chocolate, tea, or coffee. That would be what I would. That's how I would do it. I wouldn't give them that. That's a drug too. It's a medicine. I mean, it's a medicine. It's not a food, and it has side effects. So if there's ever a gateway drug, quote gateway drug, they say it's marijuana. They say all this. I don't understand. It'd be caffeine probably, right? I'd say the gateway drug is caffeine. So anyhow, but the truth is, it's not fair to make certain laws on those kind of things, because if you never try spinach, you'll never miss spinach. It's the same way with those things, but they're different. Like chocolate, if I tell you to quit, if we make coffee illegal, and then you go drink, you give in and drink coffee once, and you got it illegally, but there's people that are going to do that. They're going to give in to that and say, I don't know why they made this law. It makes no sense. It's no big deal, and they'll go try it, and then they go do it, and then they go to jail, or maybe even lose their house, or they can't pay for their bills to keep their house while they're in jail. They can't pay their taxes on their property. That's a way to steal your property and everything else. So the truth is, they should have the pressure should be on the dealing of it. It should be that you have to have a license to deal. And first of all, they should make the natural forms available with somebody who has a license, an herbalist or something. And that's becoming more and more clear to me that it's a big game. It's a game trying to make everybody. If nobody who's a Mr. Soldier can be super disciplined their whole life, and never touch caffeine, never drink a coffee their whole life. That's the only people we want to give a successful life to allow to have a successful life, right? So it's all, and so people love being prejudiced and thinking they're better than somebody else. But the truth is, that's not what God judges you by. Did you never drink coffee your whole life? That's not it. Did you walk in the Spirit? Did you continue to walk in the Spirit? But believe it or not, you can walk in the Spirit. Now, I'm going to get back to the racism subject. But you can walk in the Spirit. Sometimes a medicine can help you walk in the Spirit, in my opinion. All right? Some people, I'm not sure, I know a lot of people disagree with this. But if you can't control your temper and you drink a chamomile tea to relax you, to help you if you're having insomnia, you can feel more like you're walking in the Spirit if you got more sleep. You can be sober and vigilant and more calm-minded by having had your sleep than you are when you didn't sleep. All right? And so you can still learn to walk in the Spirit if you did lose sleep, and people could say you can learn to pray all night, and you don't need to do that sleep medicine. You don't, but it's a natural medicine. You could take tryptophan. It's natural from amino acid. But I'm just saying, chamomile or something, you can do that and say you're not forgiving somebody. You can't quit being angry. Those things can help you just get past it. Sometimes it just takes time for something to heal so you can quit being angry about it. You may choose to forgive somebody, but you just can't quit obsessing with it still. You've tried to and you can't, but you purpose to forgive them, but you still haven't you haven't gotten over it yet. But you can take a medicine if you've never had it before, don't do it. Abstain, abstinence is the best thing, because it is as easy as it's part of your appetite and you may crave it again. So anyway, the point is, some people are pre-exposed, and it would be safer for them to have an option to have a legal tea from a medicine, a natural plant medicine that God created that helps you not overdose, right? And it's not poison, and then you won't drink too much because it has other stuff in it like theobromine in chocolate and like theanine in tea. Supposed to be something like that in the coca leaf too. There's stuff in it to help you come off, to counteract the effects of the caffeine or the cocaine. So anyway, it's not a promotion, but it should be honest about medicinal science, bottom line, and quit using it as a sabotage. So put the pressure on the dealers. Okay, if you're really going to make it illegal, I say, well, keep it, then follow through with it, enforce it. You're not enforcing it. It's still out there. It's always out there. It seems like it's legal. It's out there so rampant in so many places. So, but you quit going after the addicts and stop the flow into the country. Stop the flow, or stop this flow where they produce it. Stuff like that. Anyway, but but makes them, I still say, makes them safer medicine legal venues. And that's what they've stopped doing too. They don't make the safer options. Okay, but maybe if you don't have those choices at all, that's what the preference would be for most people that have been taught hypochondria on the subject. But that's the reason I make that point, is because evolutionists dumped drugs, in my opinion, from what I've seen and studied, and it makes sense that they made those illegal and dumped them on black neighborhoods as a main target. They dumped them on poor neighborhoods for convenience, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Indian, or whatever. But they did target the black community, in my opinion. And then so I think it's racist for people to have promoted gangster rap and shooting people and all this stuff. And who did that? Hollywood did it. Well, I won't say Hollywood for sure. So I'm saying who's racist? Hollywood, maybe. But the Democrat Party, who's promoted gangster rap that deals drugs and everything else. Rap is a nice form of music. I'm not with people who think, oh, that's the devilish music and you can't hear good words through it. I believe music is music. The drum beat's a drum beat. You could put it to good lyrics or you could put it to bad lyrics. When you put it to bad lyrics, and some will say, well, we're just telling our life story. And that's true for some things. But who promoted it? Who wanted you to be the most popular? And you're not somebody who's quit and spoken against gang banging and hurting people. So the problem with the gangs that they created, they isolate them. They're in danger of going to jail, so there's paranoia. So they've traded, what the Democrats created is a slave system in and out of jail through the evolutionists by demonizing and dehumanizing people who would use a medicine that's from the street. Okay, and so really a medicine from the street is just a stronger medicine form than what's at the doctor or what's in an herbal shop. And they should have made it legal for the herbal shop for the natural plant form that's not that strong to be there, instead of acting like this is a medicine of the devil. It's not of the devil. You just put the strongest forms in the street and put it in these neighborhoods, and you threatened that some people's lives and gave them this medicine and said, if you don't go bring me money, I'm going to hurt you. I might kill you. That's all that kind of stuff happened, right? To kids a lot of times. So they do it to young people, and so that's racism. It's not racism, it's greed. But it was rooted in racism. People who were racist didn't care about black communities. So the same ones that called Charlie Kirk racist because he promoted more fatherhood in black communities, he's the one trying to help those communities that these racists on the Democrat Party tore up. And so I am saying who here. But I told you what is racist. Now, you can't help but point to who is racist. It's the ones calling Christians racist that are racist. They don't want Christians teaching black communities. Part of the reason they hate it is they don't want them teaching black communities who have been taught the opposite. Because there's so many of them. There's a lot of good Christian black communities, but they don't understand these drug laws either. They've been tricked by it, and most of the churches support evolution. So it sounds racist when churches and Republicans always speak against drug and don't give people who do drugs a chance. They don't forgive them. They marginalize them. They don't realize that they get their houses stolen. They don't realize that the cartels, if you accept an illegal drug out there, they're allowed to make a slave out of you. They're allowed to steal everything you have in one time. And all these kind of things. They're allowed to kill you even. And it's like, well, that's their fault for dying, or that's their fault for getting raped. That's their fault for getting robbed because they accepted they used drugs. And so that's drugs. Just because somebody uses a medicine doesn't mean they should have to die for it. And so what's worse than the medicines usually is the dealing groups, because it is a slave network, big time. It's a more violent slavery than they had back when the slavery that the Democrats always pretend Republicans support. The Republicans ended it. The Republicans were never for it. It was the Democrats who wanted to fight to keep it, and they're lying to act like the Republican Party and Christianity supported that. It did not any real Christianity did not support slavery. Never, not real Christianity, and that was on the Republican side. They had real Christianity. The Democrat side supported slavery, the Confederates. All right, and so mostly it was the government part of the Democrats, not the poor people who didn't like cold weather and stayed in the South. Right. So some people lived here and couldn't afford to move north. It's not that they supported it, but they still have pride of the memory of living in the South, and they like the South because it's home to them, but they weren't part of that slave network, right? They didn't know They didn't have TV and everything like we have to learn it now. But obviously we have the ability to learn, but we get lied to a lot. But when you hear me speak this and connect the dots, you can see, you can tell it's the truth. I mean, you can match it. It matches. It matches. One human race from Adam and Eve. It matches. One human race from Noah's family after the flood. That matches. One human ethnicity, various ethnicities came from language change. That matches. It adds up. It's just, we all die. We don't evolve. We all are born by a mother and father, whether it was through artificial insemination or whether mother didn't know our father or whatever. She had the seed of a man put into her, and that's your earthly father biologically, right? So that means your dad that raised you or whatever, but that's your earthly biological father. And so the Democrats especially don't want black folks to have their real fathers. They don't want black children to have their real fathers, and so they're calling a person racist who wants to help more black children have their real fathers. So the Democrats support the welfare system when a woman goes into welfare for being pregnant. They're the ones that push the laws that say don't let the man live with her in there though, because she's accepted welfare. And so libertarians have bought into that trick, and Republicans, libertarians align themselves with the Republicans, but they also would fall for that because we don't want our tax dollars going to the help of them. We don't want it helping the father. He has to pick up his bootstraps and take care of things. And so, but they don't realize the libertarians don't care a lot of times, and sometimes they're not Christian. But Republicans have more belief in God, and they're not against grace. They're not against, quote, handouts as much, but they've bought that handout stuff, those little trick words. They bought into it somewhat. But the Republicans created welfare, not the Democrats, because they believe in grace, Jesus' grace, His grace. And it's a good system. The free market system, to me, is not perfect by itself. It's not even, nothing's perfect, but it's not sustainable by itself without a recycling system. So what it does for people that get injured, lose a job and all that, these grace things help people heal up, stay above water financially, and be able to recycle back into the work system. That's good for them. It's good for the system, for the free market system. The Democrats want people tearing down, stealing from capitalism, free market stores and stuff because they're against capitalism. Well, capitalism is what helped us get rid of slavery. Abraham Lincoln says, he solidified capitalism basically when he says, all people should get paid for their labor. So capitalism's into paying. You're supposed to pay your people for your labor. Slavery, you don't pay people for their labor. Pay people for their labor. So what's hard to see about that? But what's hard to see about it is they've turned everything into black and white, and so you have a lot of black slave masters running the cartels, running gangs and stuff, and so really there's a lot of black people for slavery who are making slaves out of people in the cartel world, in the gangster world, in the ghettos. That the cartel, I call a ghetto a place where the cartels took over and made slaves out of our ghettos through the drug laws and stuff, the sabotage drug laws that the Democrats created. And they dehumanize go after addicts all the time instead of licensing people to deal medicine. And so what you're dealing with is slavery, and where they extort people. They teach them to steal. They let them go to jail for that, but they want them to steal because they get more money that way. And plus, but the Democrats want them doing that because they want to destroy capitalism. And so stealing's not good. So we haven't taught it, thou shalt not steal. We haven't taught thou shalt not kill. And those are the main love your neighbor laws. Part of them, don't covet, don't commit adultery. Those are love your neighbor laws. Those are real crimes when you do those things because you're doing something against your neighbor. That's a real crime, but it's not a crime when you're using medicine. It's also a real crime to lie and call somebody racist and get them hurt. That's called, in a sense, it's a conspiracy to harm people, conspiracy to murder with lies. And so, anyway, I'm out of time. But anyway, that's it. Basically, if you believe in one human race from God, Adam, and Eve, you're not a racist. Noah's family after the flood. If you believe anything else, you're supporting racist theology.